All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're looking at something I think is really fascinating. It's basically a field eye to the super strange and, let's be honest, often totally irrational world of modern political arguments. Let's see what it's all about.
I mean, have you ever been in one of those political arguments? The kind that just goes absolutely nowhere? You know the feeling, right? The whole conversation just spirals. Logic completely flies out the window, and you're just left there thinking, what in the world just happened? Well, it's a super common frustration, and it turns out there's actually a language to describe exactly what's going on. Now, the whole point of what we're exploring today, it's not about giving you some secret weapon to win these arguments. Not at all. It's much more like a map. Yeah, a map. The idea is to help you understand the actual terrain of irrational debate, so you can see what's happening in real time and, maybe most importantly, decide if you even want to be a part of that conversation in the first place.
So, our guide here lays out a pretty clear path for us. First, we're going to look at the environment, what the source calls the parlor. Then we'll get into how to decode the actual speech happening there. After that, we'll look at the unfair tactics, the stuff you need to watch out for. And finally, we'll meet the cast of characters, or as the author calls them, the debate monsters you're probably going to run into. Okay, so first up, the environment. We have to understand the space where these arguments actually happen. The author gives this place a very specific name, and honestly, it's key to understanding everything else. And that name is the parlor. Now, when you hear that, you might think of an old-fashioned sitting room, but that's not it at all. The parlor is the entire context of the debate. So think about a Twitter feed where the algorithm is already pushing one side's content over another. Or, a stage at a political rally that's literally designed to get a certain reaction. It's an environment that's already tilted, maybe even invisibly, before anyone even starts talking. Okay, so you're in this tilted parlor, and what happens inside it? You get the parlay. The parlay is the actual irrational speech itself. We're talking about the screaming, the trolling, all those logical fallacies. Basically, it's the giant red flag that tells you a productive, rational conversation is officially over, and something else has just started. All right, so you find yourself in the middle of a parlay. How on earth do you make sense of what's happening? Well, the source gives us a really simple, but honestly a pretty powerful tool for a quick, real-time check on the situation. It's called the Big SAC equation, and that stands for speaker intent plus audience reception equals the code, SAC. Don't worry, this isn't complicated math or anything. It's just a quick mental checklist to figure out where the conversation is at. Is it productive? That's code green. Is it getting a little sketchy? That's a cautionary yellow. Or has it gone into a totally perilous red zone where things are about to get nasty? That's the idea.
And to help you spot that red zone, the source gives us 6 specific red flags to look for. It calls them the Parlay 6. This is stuff you've definitely seen before. Rote copying of talking points, straight-up trolling, or, my favorite, selective amnesia, where really inconvenient facts just disappear. But here's what's really cool. The author points out that these are the direct opposite of Cicero's classical rules for good, productive rhetoric. So instead of thoughtful invention, you just get mindless copying. If you see these things, it's a dead giveaway you're in a parlay.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper now into the specific tactics people use inside a parlay. Think of these as the conversational weapons that are specifically designed to make an argument completely and utterly unwinnable.
One of the big ones the source identifies is a tactic it calls the lie, which stands for lived experience. Now, this is super important. The author defines this not as just, sharing a personal story, which can be really valuable. It's defined as a specific logical fallacy. It's when someone's personal experience is presented as this ultimate unchallengeable truth that just shuts down any counter-argument. It basically just ends the debate on the spot.
And to see a real-world example of this, the source points to that pretty famous, or maybe infamous, TV debate between Piers Morgan and Alex Beresford in the UK. Now look, we're not getting into the weeds of what they were actually arguing about. That's not the point. What we're looking at here is the style of the argument, because it's a perfect setup for the next big idea.
And that move has a name. The author calls it a Morgan snare. It's basically a conversation trap. It's the exact moment where one person's lived experience, their LE, is used to just completely undermine or invalidate another person's facts or their opinion. It's a trap, plain and simple, and its whole purpose is to just smother any kind of rational debate. Okay, so just to recap, we've got the environment, the parlor, We've got the irrational speech, the parlay, and we have the tactics, like the Morgan snare. So what's left? Well, our field guide needs to help us identify the players in this game, or as the source calls them, the debate monsters you're probably going to meet in the parlor. And what's really interesting here is that these players aren't categorized by their personalities, but by their tactics. We get these two opposing archetypes, a yin and a yang. They're totally different in their approach, but, and this is the crazy part, they often end up working together, sometimes without even realizing it, to create this super chaotic environment.
So on one side, you've got the Hexer. This is the yin. Think defensive, passive-aggressive, reactive. The source has a great analogy. It's like a martial artist who actually draws power from being attacked, using their opponent's energy against them. Then on the other side, you have the Doxer. That's the yang. They're the complete opposite. Proactive, aggressive, always on the attack. They're out there pursuing what they believe is avenger justice, trying to silence their targets for what they see as the greater good.
Oh, and the source points out a really interesting subtype too. It's called the cat-like tread debate monster. This is a specific kind of Hexer, right? They're the ones who just wait silently in the background while everyone else is doing the hard work, getting into the mud and arguing. Then, at just the right moment, they pounce. They sneak in, hijack the whole conversation, and walk away with what looks like an easy, super theatrical win. And that really brings us to the whole point of this, the crucial takeaway. Knowing all these terms, the parlor, the parlay, hexers, doxers, it isn't about making you a better fighter in these arguments. It's about making you a better strategist. It gives you the ability to see the game that's being played, and from there, you get to decide if that's a game you even want to be a part of. So how do you make that decision? Well, the author offers a pretty simple guiding principle. If the discussion doesn't offer any kind of clear, guaranteed benefit to society as a whole, then maybe the most rational move you can make is to just walk away. The goal should be progress, right? Not just winning for the sake of winning.
And that brings us full circle, right back to that idea of a map. With a field guide like this, your goal really shifts. It's no longer just about trying to win. It's about understanding the battlefield, seeing the traps for what they are, and making a real, conscious choice about how you engage. And maybe even more importantly, if you engage at all. So the question to leave you with is this. Now that you can map the game, how does that change the way you decide to play, or when you decide it's time to just walk away?